Okay, so hello guys. Basically, I'm gonna be doing this. There's really a lot that the Lord has shown me, but I'm gonna go in with a few scriptures, and basically, I remembered watching a video back in the day before I knew anything. I still don't know anything about constellations, but the Lord has been pointing me to the sky for the longest. And I've just been finding many patterns, as you'll see as I go in, especially with the number 2. Now, what is interesting here is I found a video that basically puts everything in a nutshell and more. But I have, God kind of gave me a little bit of a different route to this. But what this person has to say is like amazing. So just go ahead and hear it out. It's all scripture, okay? Scripture based.
On September 23rd, 2017, the sun, moon, and stars will align to fulfill a 2,000-year-old prophecy. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she being with child cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. And she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up unto God, and to his throne. Before you click off this video, I understand there's been many false predictions, false prophecies over the years. This is different. Bear with me and see. First, you need to understand that God made the sun, moon, and stars, and they all obey his order. By the word of the Lord were the heavens made, and all the host of them by the breath of his mouth. Canst thou bind the sweet influences of Pleiades, or loose the bands of Orion? Canst thou bring forth Mazzaroth in a season? So we see here that God himself says that he moved the constellations. They obey his ordained order. There's many more verses. Please pause the video to see them. They'll also be in the description. Okay, so we have the constellation Virgo clothed with the sun. And then, as you can see here, the moon is under her feet, and above her head is the 9 stars from the constellation Leo, plus the 3 planets that align perfectly. And to fulfill the birth prophecy, you have Jupiter that stays in the womb for 9 months. Absolute precision. Another thing you must realize is this is not astrology. This is the lost knowledge of biblical astronomy. Stick with me, and you'll see. Let's start at the beginning and see what God said. And let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. Jesus himself said that when he returns, there shall be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars. Think about this. If God wanted to speak to all his children across the entire earth and speak to them all at once in the same universal language, how would he do it? Look at Psalm 19. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night showeth knowledge. There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. Their line is gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. When Jesus was born, it was marked in the stars. The 3 wise men saw his star in the east and knew of it. What makes you think his second coming would be any different? Isn't this sign just a retelling of Jesus' birth? And didn't he say no man knows the day or the hour? We look at Revelation 1:1. The revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave unto him, to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. Revelation 1:1 shows us that the Father showed all things to Jesus when he ascended to the throne, and he showed us in the book of Revelation. Jesus himself, when he spoke to the churches, said that his believers, his followers, if they overcome and hold his words to the end, they would rule with a rod of iron. This is a very specific passage that connects Revelation 12 and a prophecy of what's going to happen for his believers. Alright, so are we just cherry picking a couple verses and trying to put a prophecy behind it, or is this found anywhere else in the Bible? I'm glad you asked. Unfortunately, we will not be able to read all these verses. Please feel free to pause and take a look at each one of these coinciding verses, which are all pieces to this grand puzzle. Well, what does it all mean? No one knows exactly. What's very interesting is the language that is used in Revelation 12, where the child is caught up unto God. The word caught up is the Greek word harpazo. It's the same word used in Thessalonians when Paul describes the rapture. We are not saying this is what's going to happen, but it is certainly intriguing and worthy to be aware of. The main message is to know that this alignment has not happened in the last 2,000 years since its prophecy. While it's imperative to know that this ministry is not date setting, the facts are the facts. This alignment is set for September 23rd, 2017. Some have run the numbers, and the odds of this are in.
So as amazing as that was, and wow, like I pretty much think that he said it all. I'm gonna be showing just basically a couple of ways that I came across this same understanding. There's a lot more which I can go over in another video, but for the sake of time, I'm just gonna be going over a small piece of Job. Job is extremely prophetic, okay? And Job, the things that he speaks are actually a parable, okay? And when God answers him, this is important, and I'm going to tell you why. When God answers Job, his answer is basically, he tells him to sit down and shut his mouth and take notes. And I find this extremely prophetic because in the end of times that we're living in, especially right now, and all throughout history, human beings have thought that they know better than God about what is going to transpire, about the future events, about the timelines and everything of that nature. Okay. And here's the thing that I mention in every single video when it comes to revelation. Okay. Now, I am someone who had a dream about the end of days. I saw basically Revelation, I believe it was like 6, I believe, in a rapture dream, or the second coming of Christ, rather, when I was 16. This was 11 years ago, never understood what it was. Kind of tried to look for answers throughout the years, but not until now have I gained insight and understanding like never before. And in the beginning of this process, when I had this urgency in my heart about 2 years ago, like really, really hardcore urgency, I began in search to find out what all this means. And when I went on to YouTube and I saw all these dreams that were being uploaded in the last 5 or 6 years, I was like, wow, something's going on here. Okay. Now, this is called revelation, my friends. Okay. It is called a revelation from God. And in the end of days, it says in 4 places in the Bible that in the end of days, he will pour his spirit out and people will prophesy, dream dreams, and have visions. Okay. This is what is to transpire in the end of days. And, this actually reminds me of 2 scenarios just off the top of my head. One, the rising of Jesus Christ, how regardless, people were willing to die for this testimony, and still nobody believed it. Everyone was kept hush-hush. And even with Moses, when Moses saw God, the great I am, in the bush, right? Burning in the bush, God told him to go and tell his people that, the great I am came to you. And Moses said, what if they don't believe me? And that angered God. That angered God. Because it is frustrating, okay? Basically, the Lord told you, he told everyone that in the end of days, because we don't understand it with our simple minds, the entire Bible, the Bible as an entirety, and especially its layered meanings and roots, that he would give revelation to regular people, okay? We're not talking about scholars. We're not talking about anybody. They know nothing. And as a matter of fact, leaning on my own understanding, I'm going to use me as an example so that nobody thinks I'm picking on them. This is my testimony. As of a few months ago, as a matter of fact, and the Lord has given me wisdom and knowledge and understanding beyond comprehension, okay? A few months ago, I was looking at everybody else's theories. Really, they really are theories, because nobody's for sure, because God has not revealed this to them, okay? Now, in doing this, and me leaning on my own understanding, me trying to read the Bible to figure out, because rapture was a new term for me. I did not know about really real Christianity until I was about 16 years old, when I gave myself to the Lord. And receiving all these visions and dreams was just like even more overwhelming for me. Didn't understand what was going on. And as this transpired, and me trying to read now at this point and trying to just absorb as much as I can, because the Lord sent me on a hunt, because he said that his people die from lack of knowledge in Hosea. This sent me on a hunt for truth. And I could not grasp a firm understanding, because it almost seems like the Bible contradicts itself when you are using human understanding. And Jesus Christ is a firm testament of this, because the Pharisees try to trip him up by asking him questions that sound very contradictory. And Jesus shuts them up every single time. Okay? One of the times he says that you shall not test the Lord your God. Okay? So basically, what is transpiring right now is that there is a movement, as the Lord said would happen, where he would pour his spirit out. Okay? The Lord gave me Bible verse, Revelation 3:10, and I will bring it up. And in this Bible verse, it states that in the end of days, for one of the churches will be kept from the hour of trial, the hour of judgment, the hour of temptation in some versions. And what this means, and it says that he will test the entire earth and its inhabitants, and who belongs to the earth, okay? Whoever belongs to the earth, he will test them. So if somebody come back at me and saying, well, this just means that he's going to move you somewhere else. No, that's not what that means. Because if he was to move us to another part of the earth, then we would still be suffering with the people of the earth, okay? So this means that he's going to be moving us beyond our understanding, okay? Now, hear me out. The Lord has been pointing to the stars, okay? Now, I'm going to be showing you verbatim, and in the video, you can go through those Bible verses as well, that the stars are very much looked at, and it is very much true. If you do not understand the rapture, there are many, 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 many Bible verses in the Bible that attest to the rapture. And no, they're not going to say flat out, hey, you're going to be raptured. It is a catching up, a plucking. Jesus uses parables. And these parables are used for a reason. These parables are to basically show a season of ripeness for the seed that has been planted, and if you are bearing good fruit or bad fruit. Okay? It talks about this everywhere throughout the Bible. And if you do not understand, then you must ask the Lord for understanding. This is how I received supernatural understanding. I had a conversation with the Lord, and I asked the Lord, Lord, I do not want to learn this from man, but I want you to teach me, my teacher. You tell us not to call anyone else a teacher, not to call anyone else father. I am calling on you, Father God, to teach me what it is that you want me to know. Okay? So I could teach this, I could show you till I'm blue in the face, but the Lord takes away knowledge even from those who think they have knowledge. He takes it away. Okay? So these scholars and everything, they will confuse you. And I've said this several times because I've been there, done that. Listening to what the scholars have to say, and they don't know what they're talking about. I'm going to show you that these words don't mean what we think that they mean always. Okay? Also, another secret, another mystery. Okay? I've noticed that all these like religions or whatever, obviously they're going to come together in the end of days. Now, I told you that the Lord spoke to me in doubles and two and everything right now specifically. Splitting, to divide, so on and so forth. And I will show you here. And when I say come together, I mean in a bad way. And I also mean in an enlightening way without making this sound new age. I do not want it to sound new age because I have another thing to show you guys regarding new age. I don't even like using the word enlightenment, but the devil got it from God. Everything that God has made, the devil has perverted. God made it for good. The devil uses it for witchcraft and sorcery. Okay? Do not do horoscopes. Don't do any of that stuff. It's evil. Okay, that's sorcery. But there is going to be a coming together of where everything is going to make sense. Okay? So basically, I do find that there is some truth in all of these mythologies and stories around the world. Do I know what that truth is? Not exactly. I don't, because I don't know everything. But the Lord will reveal it in due time. And that philosophy and theology has gotten people dug deep into a grave, okay? Because that's what these extra books and extra verses are, and these extra Bibles and masonry and all these things, is that the human cognitive sense tries to make sense of an eternal God. And it's just the most foolish thing that you could ever think of, like possibly. The one who created the whole world and everything in it and the universe, and you think that you know more than him, okay? It actually makes me laugh when scholars and when scientists claim that they are baffled as to why this is happening or that's happening. You should be baffled. It's not your creation. You should be baffled. So basically, all the arguing that you hear in the New Testament, especially with Jesus and the Jews, right? He uses the word Jew. And he even claims that the Jews, their father is the devil, okay? He's flat out says that. And you need to be catching on. You need to be taking in every single word that Jesus speaks as if it is breath of life itself, okay? We need to not be sleeping on Jesus's words, because his words are absolutely 100%, they are the truth. And we need to be like sitting on the edge of our seat, just clarifying every single word that he speaks, okay? And basically, Jesus argued with all these people based on their theology and their philosophy, okay? Also in Acts, when the apostles begin their ministry, especially Paul. I mean, Paul pretty much stands out the most, just with his situation in particular. He was around the Greeks a lot and their theology and things of that nature. And supposedly they had all these gods lined up, all these like statues or whatever. And one of the statues said, unknown God. And Paul did not dismiss the other gods, because, I mean, God said there were other gods of this world. He said that in the beginning, like with Moses. He said that. And then he talks about the hosts of the heavens and the earth. Now, with Paul does not dismiss the other gods, but he talks about the most important one. The one who comes in the flesh, okay? The one who dies for the world and rose 3 days later, okay? That's what he speaks of. Now, we're going to be getting into this, because this literature right here, and please stay with me because this is very important, it's very interesting. I'm going to have to break this into 2 parts. Shows the lack of understanding and the lack of knowledge we truly do have. And we need to take this dialogue in and really absorb it and really think about what it is that is going on right here, okay? Now, I do have King James Version up, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read this in probably like NIV. You could follow it in King James Version, because I know there's those diehard King James. I'm not comfortable reading it, so I'm not going to read it in that. But I do listen to it in King James, and I'm going to also go in and I'm going to break down into Hebrew what a lot of these words mean from King James. All right.